propeller actually. Got over here. Can make a mold. This propeller, got the clay on there. It's all cut out around it. I'm gonna make a nice box. I think it'll work, you know. I'll be able to get some pressure in there. I'm not gonna put all kinds of crazy pressure in that silicone, you know. It does, like the guy was saying, does distort, but a little pressure is better than none. So that, and you know, I'm just kind of a big fan of doing things with what you got. Means I can't get my hands on a CNC machine or anything, or so I just kind of like experimenting and try and find out new ways of doing things. So that's the beginning of the prop mold. We'll show you that more as we get going on it. So we'll catch you next time here in the shop. Now I was going to show you a few things. I'm back here home in Grand Junction for the weekend. Mom had some surgery, so I come up here and see her. But show you a few things I worked on over the weekend, overnight. Here's that prop I was working on. That's what I did, is I used some clay there. Used some clay to make the parting plane. And I clayed up around it. I did have a little pin in there, you know, to make that hole. You can see it. That's the inside. It even got the 6.4, but I don't think it'll zoom in good enough. You can see it on here maybe. You can kind of see it, I just don't want to zoom in on it. But it's got the 6.4 mark on it. Looks just as good as the stock one. So what I did, I made this mold. Made this one first. You know, the clay was in there like so. The prop, once all that silicone dried, and pulled all this out. And then I went ahead and put the prop back in there. And being that silicone, as we learn, sticks to itself, I made a real nice box this time, perfectly square. You know, the silicone fits in there whichever way I want to. So, and it was in here like so. I had that prop in the bottom. You know, I stuck the clay to the box, stuck it down real good, and had the prop on it. Then I poured all the silicone on it. Once I did that, I pulled the silicone out, flipped it around, stuck it back down in that box. That helps it from distorting or losing its shape, keeps it flat. Then I put the prop in there and I spray painted it with the high-build primer. Actually, that's what I wanted to use, but I just used silver paint. Did about 6-7 coats on it, and what it did is it sealed up these edges, because that last one I did, the silicone got underneath this blade and leaked around, and it messed up that whole side. It wasn't smooth. So when I spray painted it, it made the parting plane, because the guy down at Plastic Care said part all wouldn't work, and that guys were having problems with that. So I did a little test piece, painted it, poured the silicone on there, man, it popped right off. And so I did that, seal the edges, and then I poured this half over the top. You know, poured it in. I had a side on it here. And so that's what I did. Then pulled it off, washed all the paint off. Made this prop the first go around. And one layer, just, you know, you can see through it. And I didn't cut it to size, and I didn't want to have to be trimming on it. And, you know, wearing a dust mask and all that. And you can see I didn't drill out my fiber. I actually made all the fibers go around the hole to make it a little stronger. Hey, there you go. You can see the 6.4 on this one. So I said, well, you live and you learn. Threw that one in the trash, and I laid this one up. And this is 2 layers. Man, it's so much more rigid than that plastic one. And what I did is I laid the fiberglass or carbon fiber down on this type of plastic, and I sandwiched it. I got it all saturated real good. And then I put another piece of plastic on top of it, and then I put some weights on it and smashed it down. Once it got to the green stage, which I had a little test piece off to the side so I could touch it and feel it, and once it was green, so that it wasn't tacky anymore but really flexible, I laid the carbon fiber over this prop, and then I trimmed it to the size it needed to be. And I had pre-made that hole before I saturated it, and I just stuck a pin in there, made that hole so that I wasn't drilling the carbon fiber, making the hub leak. And so once I got it to that, I trimmed those 2 layers. Then I put a good bit of epoxy in here. I put the first layer in, put some more epoxy in it, put the second layer in, and then I put some more epoxy in it. Then I took this half of the mold and I pushed it down in there. And that's backwards. And I just pushed this down in there like so. And then I had the side on it, I glued it back on. Then I took this piece here, you can see the clay, and the clay wasn't in there to begin with. Put that on top, and that actually fits inside my box. And then I put weight on it. I put a can here and a can here, and then I put 2 big oxygen bottles on it to push down on it. Once I got that weight on it, right, and it's all pinched in there, it can't really deform its shape. I mean, it'll depress, but you know, one side will push down, and I mean, it really didn't change the shape at all. And then I injected it, and once I had it oozing out these holes down here, the epoxy oozed out on the ground, and same thing, I have a hole over here drilled in it. So once that oozed out, what I did was pull that thing out, you know, and the epoxy was all piled up, kind of push it out of the way, and then I packed clay down in there real tight. These were clayed off, so it somewhat put pressure on it. The epoxy wasn't leaking out. Let it set up for a few hours, 8 hours overnight, pulled it out, and I had to do a little scraping with my knife and a little sandpaper work on the edges, and that's what I got. So slightly out of balance, but I think I can fix that by scraping some of the excess epoxy off. So we'll see how that bad boy works in a few days. Figured the old all carbon fiber fun jet needed a carbon fiber prop, and they're saying with this new speed control, if I go to 8 cell, that plastic one will just shatter under the RPM. So I'm thinking this will be stronger, but we'll find out. See how it works down the road. And put it up there on the prop. But if you look at it, you know, it's pretty much the same thing. I don't think that distorted a whole bunch. I mean, I've measured it with a ruler, and that's all. It's all good. So I'm going to show you here where the